So in this lesson, I'm going to show you what I call a voicings warmup, various ways to do this. For me, it was just something I found myself doing. It wasn't a specific tool or technique that I learned from anyone. A lot of times when we're on the road as touring musicians, as pianists, we don't really have a piano in our hotel room, and there's not much chance to warm up. So the little sound check that you might get before the gig, that might be the only chance you have to warm up on the piano before the actual gig. And one day I was just sitting at the piano to sound check, and the drummer was tuning the drums, and they were checking the microphones and everything. And I was just sitting at the piano very quietly, just kind of going, and it was kind of a tactile thing. Like I could feel like I was stretching my hands, and some of the shapes I were playing were close together and some were spread out, so you're kind of getting a stretch. But what was I actually doing at the piano? When I was asked to show it to somebody, I said, well, what is it? I was basically just picking any two notes, and I'll just pick an E flat here, and I'll pick a C. And in this first example, I'm just going chromatically up in the right hand. And I was going through the cycle of fourths or fifths in the left. And in the middle, just filling them in with voicings. Nothing specific, no hard and fast rules to this, but it was really just about what sounds good, what feels good under my hands. Nothing too complicated, because we're not going for crazy sounding clusters or trying to be super hip or anything. But I think I just did something like maybe 4 notes, maybe 5 notes at the most. Here's 5 notes. I am noticing that there is a pretty even spread between the notes. These are actually all fourths. This is like a 1/6 on the bottom, a 1/4 in the middle, 2/4 in the middle, and a 1/3 on top. Here, we've got, so just kind of a nice, comfortable spread, 4 or 5 notes, and it also gives you practice in voice leading. Some basic guidelines you could consider are, obviously, if you have, let's say, a major 7th, or you're going to play something major and pretty sounding. If you're landing on the 5th of a chord, you could go like that. You could make it flat 9. You could do that. I mean, you could get as hip or unhip as you want to. Also, if the spreads start to get too big, I mean, I am playing a 10th in my left hand, and not everybody can reach that. I certainly can't reach all the 10ths. I can't reach from here to here. I can reach the smaller 10ths. But if it starts to get too big, if you're going up chromatically and you're going down by fourths, you're going to run out of room after a while. So you can switch octaves. So I might be going like, I don't want to necessarily do this, because it's not so much of a warm-up at that point, it becomes something else. So really the warm-up is to make sure that you're really warming up your hands, getting a nice gentle stretch, nothing too crazy. I'm also not cramming a bunch of notes in one hand and, like a cluster. I'm not going, that sort of defeats the purpose. You're really wanting to do something where you're using both hands equally. So again, pick any 2 notes you want. Just for this example, I'm going to pick F sharp in the left hand, G in the right. Okay, what do I do with that? I mean, I could do that. I could drop the octave. This is like a nice 13 chord with a flat 9. For B, I could go like a sus kind of sound, A major 7 over B, or I could do that, or I could do You know, if I want to get slick with the voicing. Here, I could drop my left hand down. I could do something like this, or this, or if I don't feel like reaching that far, I could just do it here. Another thing to think about is not using too much pedal. I'm using a tiny bit just to get from one chord to the next, but this isn't, because this is a warm-up, you want to be doing something where you're engaging your hands and your fingers. So using too much pedal takes the attention away from your hands. If you're just going, sure, then it's more about playing the chords, but you're not getting the warm-up part of it, right? So don't use too much pedal. Or if you can avoid it entirely, that's fine too. So I would just kind of go around like that. You can switch and do chromatic with the left hand and cycle with the right. You can go, let's just pick any two notes again. Let's pick C sharp in the left hand. How about E in the right hand? So my left hand's going to go. My right hand's going to go through the cycle, or however you want to do it. But, so, let's see. Next note is going to be A flat. So it's a different kind of sound. This exercise does a lot of things. It wakes up your harmonic brain, gets you thinking about voice leading a little bit. Try to put some nice voice leading in if you can, within the inner voices and all that. You know, so you're like, you know, that kind of thing. Some of these inner voices are leading in a nice way. Wakes you up physically, wakes up your brain. It does a lot of things in a short amount of time. Let's pick two other kinds of scales. How about we go down with a whole tone scale, and I go up with a chromatic scale. So maybe start here. I don't know, let's start on F in my right hand, or let's start on F sharp in my right hand and in E in the left. So again, whole tone down, chromatic up. So I'm just starting there, just felt like a good thing to do. Could do that. So now this gets interesting real quick. So again, don't go chromatic, don't do that. Okay. Things start to spread out and fan out kind of fast, so you're going to have to switch octaves at some point pretty soon. And you can see I'm taking my time. I'm looking at this because this is some brain work too. Let's try it the other way. Whole tone in the right, chromatic in the left. Let's start on, you know, F. If we were doing this in person, I could say, just name any two notes, you know? Let's do F in the right hand, whole tone up, and let's start on a D in the left and go down by chromatic. Okay, so there's my starting point. I could do minor. I could do D7 sharp 9. I don't care what you do, just make it sound nice. Now, whole tone up. That's nice, I landed on the same note in both hands, so I could just fill that in with a nice 13 chord, or I could do minor, you know. There again, I got unisons. Yeah, but you gotta get used to this stuff, so. So I encourage you to just try this, experiment. All this is just meant to be for you to experiment with. Pick your own scales in each hand. Try different kinds of voicings. Try 4-note voicings, try 5-note, 6-note, try them all minor, try them all major. Just see what happens and have some fun with it.